I'm Katie Allman reporting for Katie Chats in downtown Toronto. I'm here with writer-director Nicholas Arnold of the feature film William's Lullaby. As a director, what was it like for you working with such a sweet young actor and an older actor as well, but dealing with the kid and in terms of such serious subject matter and sort of striking that balance between making him feel safe and also achieving what you needed to achieve for the story?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially two different directing styles completely when you're dealing with a child and then an adult actor. And both, though, I think are about, especially when you're dealing with such serious content and such sensitive material, both are about gaining the trust of the actors. And, you know, with the little guy, he was, Toby Bisson had just turned 6 when we shot that film. It was his first film ever, and luckily enough, because we were a small crew and because the set was so small and intimate, it really was about creating a sort of family atmosphere for him where he did feel safe and comfortable, and he really was just a part of the gang. So when it came to doing some of the more sensitive scenes that he's involved in, he trusted us all so much, and he trusted Richard, and it was about not traumatizing him, you know, and I think with a child, you have to be very, very protective of that. But then similarly for an adult actor, you know, you want to make sure if they're going to go to some of these really dark places that they're not damaging themselves either in that process. So it's just a lot of discussion, a lot of time before shooting and preparation. Absolutely. Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about the theme in terms of adults dealing with resolved or unresolved issues from our childhoods. I think everyone has them, and sort of what inspired bringing that into this story and the importance of our childhoods in our adult life.
I mean, I think I've always been fascinated with the idea that, you know, we're so quick to label some of these monsters that we hear about in the media that do heinous acts as just evil. And not that what they do isn't horrible and evil, but it's the fact that things are not black and white, that there are shades of gray with everything. And yeah, a lot of it does stem from our childhood and stuff that's happened to us. And a lot of times if things are not properly dealt with, traumatizing things from our childhood, if they are not properly dealt with, we refer to what's called a wounded inner child in the film. And so, you know, Richard Sutton's character, Thomas, really is, even though he's an adult man, inside he's still very much a child because he hasn't dealt with things from his childhood, which is so important. And this unfortunately shows a very dark outcome with all of that, but hopefully by watching the film people can kind of explore that whole psychology of childhood and childhood development and how grief and depression affect kids.
And you also wrote a realistic interpretation of loss and dealing with losing a loved one. Can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration for making that choice?
I think it sounds kind of morbid, but I always have been fascinated by death. I mean, as a kid, I did lose my grandmother. I've lost people that I have known, but so perhaps that's where it stemmed from. But I mean, I did a short documentary on life and death and interviewed terminally ill patients and cancer survivors to get perspectives. And I did another short film in film school that sort of revolved around those themes. So I think William's Lullaby is sort of the final part of that thesis on that exploration of death, and it deals with it in a very heavy way, both at the beginning and at the end. And it's interesting to me how people do deal with grief, and then I think what's even more interesting is how does a child deal with grief? How does a 5-year-old deal with losing a mother? And that's where we kind of take the film from the beginning and explore.
And when you first cast your two leads, Richard Roy Sutton and Toby, what was the process like in terms of getting them comfortable with each other, creating this father-son, rather intricate dynamic?
A lot of rehearsal, and not just rehearsing the scenes, but just spending time with each other. You know, in the film, there's a lot of old home video footage and a lot of photos, and those were just days and afternoons where we would get them together and, you know, go to a park and hang out. So again, Toby had to be very, very comfortable with Richard, but Richard also had to be very comfortable with Toby, and it was a mutual relationship that needed to be developed. So just spending time and rehearsing. We cast them about 4 months before we shot the film. Yeah.
And how are you hoping that audiences respond to the film tomorrow night for the first time?
We really have no idea how people are going to react to the film. I mean, the reality is we're very aware of how heavy it is, and that it will be a hard thing to watch for some people. But hopefully people are able to see that despite that this film is a tragedy, that it's still a very beautiful story. We've done our best to try and tell it beautifully, as much as it deals with some very horrific things. And so I hope that helps people to come away, with some thoughts and discussion about some of the themes that we've talked about here.
And where is the best place for us to find out more information on the film and on you as well online?
Always our website is just williamslullaby.com, and that will stem you to our Facebook and Twitter at Lullaby Film, and Facebook is /WilliamsLullaby. So follow us there and you'll keep up to date.
Thank you so much. Congratulations and best of luck with the film and with your upcoming projects as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks. I'm Katie Allman reporting for Katie Chats in downtown Toronto.